Hey, check this out. The Battle Network Legacy Collection is turning out to be the fastest selling Mega Man game ever, no doubt pulling in tons of new fans. And since you gotta be the change you want to see in the world, I wanted to make a guide for new players on something that I wish I had a guide for when I first played these games as a kid. That being an explanation on Navi Ghost. In Battle Network 1, on the second day, you can find a Navi at the entrance of the net who says this: "I heard you deleted Fireman. Wow, but be careful. There are sometimes copies of deleted Navis in the net." Almost sounds like a ghost story, huh? Would you believe me if I said this is the only mention of Navi ghosts in the entire game? When I first played this game as a kid, I went through the whole game without seeing any ghosts, so I just assumed this guy was lying? But no, this is supposed to be your hint that you can refight story Navis on the net and earn their summon chips. Here's how it works. When you fight a boss in the story, you always get the same cash prize for beating them. After that, you can find a harder version of that boss by touching an invisible trigger point on the net, usually hidden at innocuous dead ends. I'm gonna call these trigger points hiding spots. These hiding spots are in the same place every time, so you can use guides to find the exact boss you're looking for. For example, Fireman is always hidden in this dead end in the first area. These harder boss fights go by a few different names throughout the series, version 2, Alpha, or EX, but they all mean the same thing. It doesn't matter if your busting level sucks, your reward for beating a version 2 is always that Navi's summon chip. But be careful, because after deleting a version 2, you release an even stronger version 3 as a random encounter in the same area. And this can't be undone, so if you don't like the idea of being ambushed by Fireman version 3 in the early game, sometimes back to back, maybe hold off on fighting version 2s. The upside is that defeating version 3s can net you stronger Navi chips depending on busting level, and can be grinded infinitely. I highly recommend doing this because some of these Navi chips are crazy useful. Fireman version 1 does 100 damage and pierces all the way down the row, which is insanely strong for how soon you can get it. The whole Navi Ghost system works mostly the same way in every game, but there are some minor differences that I want to highlight. In Battle Network 1 specifically, you can encounter a version 3 Navi immediately after deleting the version 2. But from Battle Network 2 onwards, version 3s won't show up until you jack out of the net first, so if you feel like it's taking an unusually long time to encounter a version 3, make sure you've left the net completely before ghost hunting. In Battle Network 3, 4, and 5, version 2 Navis are called Alphas, version 3s are called Betas, and you can also find even harder versions called Omegas. In Battle Network 3, version 3s are found in areas separate from their version 2s, indicated by this text which is found after deleting a version 2. The remaining data from the Navi drifted away. And, to the game's credit, you can intuit where to find the version 3 locations by talking to the right NPCs. Also, Battle Network 3 has this whole side quest involving version 4 and 5 Navi chips, but there's already plenty of specialized guides for that kind of thing, and getting footage will take too long, so we're just gonna move on. Battle Network 4 does a few things differently. For starters, in Battle Network 4, you can find a Navi's hiding spot as soon as you defeat them in the story. You don't need to wait until the next chapter like in previous games. Battle Network 4 is also the only Battle Network game with a New Game Plus that makes the game harder, and that extends to the boss fights. On your first playthrough, story bosses will be their base version, and their hiding spot will be their alpha form. On a second playthrough, story bosses will be alpha form, and their hiding spot will be beta. And on your third playthrough or later, bosses will be beta form for both story encounters and their hiding spots. But, no matter which playthrough you're on, random encounter fights will always be Omega form. And if you release an Omega Navi, they stay released even into New Game Plus. That's technically a good thing, since you never need to worry about missing your chance to get certain Navi chips, but I mentioned earlier that you may want to hold off on releasing Omegas if you don't like the idea of randomly running into a difficult boss fight. Yeah, that goes double for Battle Network 4. Omegas are no joke, especially on your first playthrough. Now, in previous games, Navi chips were numbered to denote strength. But in Battle Network 4 and 5, Navi chips instead come in a base form, an SP form, and a Dark Soul form. SP and DS chips actually have variable attack power. The base attack for SP chips is dictated by how fast you S-rank to the corresponding Omega Navi, capping out if you can S-rank them in under 10 seconds. DS chips, on the other hand, grow in strength by having more dark holes open on the field, and can only be used while you have low karma. Now Battle Network 5... what the hell's going on with you, man? Battle Network 5 shakes up the order a bit. You fight base form in the story like normal, then, only for team member Navis, after clearing the chapter where they're relevant, battle image data for their alpha form shows up on the net just standing around. You can fight these guys as much as you want, but they'll always give you the same reward, their base Navi chip. Only after you defeat this alpha form will their beta form show up as a hiding spot. Beta forms can drop DS chips if you S-rank them, but you can only fight them once, so I recommend saving right before you fight them so you can reload if you fail. After defeating a Beta Navi, their corresponding Omega Navi shows up as a random encounter, which can drop SP chips. You can also earn DS chips from Omegas if you missed them before, but you need a busting rank that's good but not too good, which can be a tough needle to thread, so again, I recommend save scumming the beta fight to make life easier. But again, alpha image data only shows up for team members. As for the Dark Lords, you can only fight their alphas during the boss refight at the end of the game, so it's gonna take a long time before you trigger those beta encounters. Waiting until the boss refights also works for team member Navis as well, but you really have no reason to wait until that point. So don't. Also, instead of powering up with Dark Holes, DS chips in Battle Network 5 power up with how many times you've been flinched in that battle, which doesn't really seem like a fair trade, not to me anyways. Now thankfully, Battle Network 6 simplifies things. After you defeat a boss in the story, their alpha is found in a hiding spot, which releases their beta as a random encounter in the same area. Navi chips have a base form, a stronger EX form, and a strongest SP form, which powers up with S rank deletion time. No more Dark Soul chips. Some minor points: instead of being called alphas and betas, Battle Network 6 calls them EXs and SPs, but they're functionally identical. And also, just like in Battle Network 4, you don't need to wait until the next chapter to fight the hiding spot Navi because the Psychopomps got that same day shipping. And that's that. A generalized guide for how Navi Ghosts work for all 6 Battle Network games. I could have gone into more detail for certain games, especially for Battle Network 5, but I think I'll save those for future videos. Hopefully this cleared things up for new players, or maybe my rambling only just confused people. Who knows? Please, let me know. I think my script writing skills need serious work. Bye.